I didn't make any money my first 3 to 4 years of being a content creator, blogger, influencer. And it's not because I was too small or didn't have enough followers. It's because I was making a lot of mistakes that were hindering my success. So in this video, I will be sharing my own missteps in the hopes of preventing you from suffering through them yourselves, and in the hopes that you can get ahead a little faster. This video is going to be fun because I'm taking you back to January 2016 when I first launched my blog, Comfy Girl with Curls. A lot of people have been asking me how I got started, so this is the perfect way to talk about it. My first mistake is that I started without a strategy, or without a good one at least. And if you want content creating to be a business, you need to have a strategy in mind, something that is intentional and well-researched. I started my content creating journey as a natural hair blogger. I had recently started accepting my natural hair texture and was learning to care for it, so my idea behind this blog was that it would be to document. I was going to write about my wash day routine. Excuse the awful photos. I was going to try a bunch of different products and review them. I was going to post random selfies on Instagram. I really only had one goal when I started, and that was to maybe, just maybe, help one other person learn to love their hair texture too. But that was kind of the extent of my strategy. There was no foresight, there was no planning, there was no asking what my potential audience would be interested in. I was just posting whatever, whenever. The next mistake I made was not leveraging a traffic driver. In other words, SEO and Pinterest. My early blog posts really read like a diary. They were for me. Even though in my head at that time, I was creating it for my audience. And then after I had written these posts, I would share them to Facebook, I would mention them on Instagram, and just expect people to flock to it, to read my opinions. And then I would wonder why I wasn't getting a lot of views. The thing with a blog is you need to have a strong traffic driver. And social media, for the most part, isn't going to cut it. If you've been around a while, I'm probably gonna sound like a broken record, but you need to be using search engine optimization and Pinterest to get people over to your blog. Without leveraging these two things, you're probably writing blog posts that nobody will ever see. But back in the day, I used to think, if I write a good post, people will come. My next mistake, which not just prevented me from getting readers on my blog, but also new followers or views on my Instagram content, was not providing value. Yes, I was posting content that I hoped would be valuable to people, but I was posting a lot of content that also wasn't. Again, using my platform as more of a diary. If you want to create a community online and get more followers and viewers, you need to be providing value to them. What makes them want to read? What makes them want to hit follow? I had an especially hard time learning this on Instagram. Yes, I was posting some reviews and wash day tips, but I also started creating some really visually cool content with my friends. We would get together and spend hours doing these elaborate shoots that we thought were very artsy and high quality, and they wouldn't get much engagement. Then I would post a selfie and the likes would skyrocket. I would get so upset and frustrated and cry out that the world was shallow and didn't appreciate things that took a lot of effort. But it literally took me years to realize that people were getting more value out of my selfies than they were this artistic content. Because again, I was a natural hair page. People came to me looking for hairstyle inspiration. I thought that people liking my selfies was really superficial, but they were probably liking it to serve as inspiration for their own hair journey. That's a lot more relatable and valuable than the artistic stuff I was doing for fun with my friends. And I think that just goes to show that we often overthink the concept of value. We think it always has to be teaching somebody something, educating, but value shows up in so many different ways. My next mistake was not showing up consistently. Every time I felt like I was moving one step forward, everything I built, whether it was on my blog or social media, always seemed to crumble when I dropped my consistency. Consistency doesn't necessarily mean posting every day at the same time, but you can't go massive stretches of time without showing up online. And that's what I did many times. The most notable was 2018 when I got married. I disappeared for most of the year, and there's actually just this massive dip in my website traffic. But there was still traffic, which is why I always recommend you have a blog. Find out what consistency means to you, whether that is once a day, once a week, or once a month. I myself do not have a perfect schedule, and I am guilty of still disappearing for decent stretches of time, but I do try my best to be as present as possible on a regular basis. My next mistake was not talking to camera, which was a very hard one for me to get over. I was a blogger. Written words were my language. It was hard enough as it was to show my face and take pictures of myself. It took a long time and some cognitive dissonance to start even taking selfies. But when it comes to social media, people want to really get to know you, and they want to build trust and rapport with you. And the easiest way to do that is to talk to them. To get more comfortable with video content, I filmed a ton of content that never saw the light of day. I still remember the first day I talked on my stories. There were people who had been following me for years who had never heard my voice, and now they probably wish I would shut up. But seriously, creating video content, talking to the camera is truly what helped me connect more with people and level up my authority as a content creator. So once I overcame a lot of those mistakes, I started to see real progress. My audience started to grow, my engagement started to increase, and I started to get on brands' radars, which leads me to my next mistake. Saying yes to every gifted opportunity. I started to get free products sent to me pretty early on in my journey. These were definitely not from the mega brands, they were from small businesses, and I was so appreciative of them. But the more I started to grow, the more those requests started to come in, and the less I was equipped to handle the volume. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch this video. Gifted products are amazing, and it still shocks me to this day that because of what I've built, people want to send me things for free. But as creators, we have to realize that brands are sending us gifted products because they want promotion. Some brands offered to send me products no strings attached, meaning that there was no requirement for me to post about it, even though there's the expectation that you will. But I also started receiving requests with brands explicitly asking me to create content in exchange for these gifted products, which, to start, I said yes to a lot. But I quickly realized that the benefit was not worth the amount of effort I was putting into this content. It's almost never worth it to commit to a job, essentially, where your only compensation is product. I know I'm probably going to make that mistake again, but I'm hoping I don't. And I'm hoping you don't. So part of saying no to all of these gifted opportunities was challenging them, countering them with my rate anytime a brand would reach out. And this is the point when I actually started to make more money as a creator. But it led me to my next mistake, which was accepting offers below my worth. And it's a mistake that I think we all will make till the end of time, because we're always getting better at what we do. Our audience is always growing, and often by the time we learn to stand up for ourselves and say what we're worth, we're already behind. If you struggle with setting rates or determining your worth, watch this video next. Piggybacking on my last mistake is one that is a personal call out. I just made this mistake again like last week. Not challenging contract terms. The contract that a brand gives you is not the end all be all. And they're very often going to slip in terms in there that are a disservice to you if you're not getting compensated for it. There's exclusivity, usage rights, unlimited rounds of edits. Just things that you should probably either challenge them to take out or give them a rate for. And if you want more on that, watch this video here. That's why I try my best to get all of the terms of a partnership up front, before they've even sent over the contract. And that's where I feel like I always mess up. It's when we've already done so much back and forth and I catch something in the contract afterwards that I just can't bring myself to go back and forth and negotiate again. And I sometimes end up just accepting those terms, and then I'm bitter afterwards. So just avoid any of that resentment and make sure you're happy with the contract before you sign it. Or better yet, before it even comes through. And my final mistake, which is definitely something I'm still struggling with, comparing my day 1 to somebody's day 100. It's so cliche, but comparison is the thief of joy. It's so easy to get fixated on what everybody else is doing and comparing yourself with somebody who is just at a different part of their journey. You can't compare your starting point to their destination. I find it a lot easier to rein in my comparison when I realize that we're all on different journeys and that everybody's 24 hours looks different. I especially needed to hold on to that when I was at my day job and I would compare what I was able to produce between 5 p.m. and midnight to what somebody could produce with their entire day. I can't be the only one who made these mistakes and is still struggling with a ton of them today. Go ahead and share the mistakes you have made on your journey in the comments, and until next time.